Thousand Oaks, California, nestled in the Golden State of the USA, is known for its sunny skies, suburban charm, and affluent neighborhoods. But who could have imagined that a seemingly ambitious young man from this picturesque town would find himself at the center of a $22 million fraud scandal? Today, we dive into the alleged rise and fall of Gavin Mayo, a self-proclaimed youngest billionaire, social media sensation, and, some might argue, a master manipulator. But how did a kid from Thousand Oaks go from making TikTok videos to allegedly masterminding one of the most controversial scams of recent years? Let's rewind the clock. Born and raised in Thousand Oaks, Gavin Mayo always had big dreams, or at least, that's what his online persona wanted you to believe. By his early 20s, he had carved out a niche on TikTok, where he sold the idea of success. Not just any success, mind you, but overnight success. His content was a cocktail of flashy cars, motivational quotes, and exaggerated tales of wealth. And it worked. Young, impressionable followers flocked to his page, soaking up his brash energy and bold claims. Gavin wasn't just offering a glimpse of the good life. He was selling it outright. Whether he was posing with luxury watches or jetting off to exotic locations, the message was clear. This could be you, if you follow my advice. But here's the first question we have to ask ourselves. Did Gavin's followers want to believe in his success so badly that they ignored the glaring red flags? Or was he simply that convincing? One of the most controversial claims Gavin made was that he was the youngest self-made billionaire. He flaunted this title relentlessly, yet never provided any substantial evidence to back it up. His fans didn't seem to care. They were mesmerized. But let's pause here for a moment. How often do we, as a society, glorify wealth without asking the tough questions? Did Gavin's audience ever stop to think? How exactly did he make his money? As his fame grew, so did his stunts. Gavin gained notoriety for outlandish behavior, like eating raw chicken to stay hydrated. A bizarre act that went viral and sparked heated debates online. Was this eccentricity part of his brand, or was it a calculated move to keep people talking about him? The more outrageous he became, the more followers he gained. And with those followers came something more valuable: trust. And here lies the crux of it all: trust. Gavin Mayo didn't just gain an audience. He cultivated a community that believed in him, even when his claims seemed too good to be true. He wasn't just an influencer. He was a leader. And leaders, as we know, can sometimes lead people astray. Fast forward to the launch of Gavin Mayo's so-called revolutionary NFT projects, platforms that promised exclusivity, profitability, and a gateway into the digital future. He allegedly lured investors in with promises of skyrocketing returns. Let's be honest. In the era of cryptocurrency and NFTs, many people are chasing the dream of getting rich quick. But was it Gavin's fault for exploiting this mindset? Or were people too willing to gamble their money? Gavin reportedly used his social media influence to push his NFTs, claiming they were the next big thing. And when you're flashing Lamborghinis and private jets, it's easy to sell that dream. His followers weren't just investing in NFTs, they were investing in him. One alleged victim described the allure of Gavin's pitch. He made you feel like you were part of something bigger. Like if you didn't invest, you were missing out on the opportunity of a lifetime. But here's where it gets tricky. Gavin wasn't just marketing NFTs. He was marketing trust. And once you lose that trust, the empire crumbles. By the time the truth started to come out, Gavin Mayo had already pocketed millions, allegedly $22 million, to be exact. Victims from across the United States, particularly California, where many of his followers lived, began to speak out. They accused Gavin of overpromising and under-delivering, leaving them with worthless digital assets and empty bank accounts. Think about that for a second. $22 million, gone. How many lives were ruined? How many families were left devastated? And here's another question for you. If Gavin Mayo was from a less affluent state or didn't have the California charm, would he have been able to pull this off? This is just the beginning of our story. Gavin Mayo's rise to fame may have been flashy, but as you'll see as we continue into this story, his alleged deception was even more intricate and devastating. We're just getting to the most controversial parts of this case. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell to stay in the loop with our latest uploads. The sunny streets of Thousand Oaks, California, were where Gavin Mayo began his journey as a social media sensation. But as his fame grew, so did his ambition. An ambition that allegedly took a dark turn. In this chapter, we'll unravel how Gavin Mayo transitioned from a TikTok influencer to the founder of controversial NFT projects like Vault of Gems and Faceless, ventures that many now claim were elaborate schemes to defraud investors. But what were these projects, and how did they captivate so many people? Let's dive into the details. It started with an idea Gavin Mayo marketed as revolutionary. In early promotional videos, Gavin described Vault of Gems as a game-changing NFT platform where users could buy digital assets that would increase in value over time. On his Instagram, he allegedly wrote, "This is more than an investment. It's your gateway to financial freedom." His TikTok posts followed the same narrative, blending bold claims of wealth with promises of exclusivity. Then came Faceless, another project Gavin touted as being at the cutting edge of blockchain technology. He painted a picture of innovation and exclusivity, urging his followers to join the movement before it was too late. Some of his captions read, "Don't be the one who says, 'I missed out.' Act now. NFTs are the future, and I'm giving you the keys to unlock it." These messages were allegedly backed by flashy visuals, screenshot-worthy graphics of NFTs paired with images of Gavin standing next to luxury cars or vacationing in exotic locales. It all screamed success. But as we now know, appearances can be deceiving. One of Gavin's alleged victims, a man from Thousand Oaks itself, shared his story online. He described how Gavin's charisma convinced him to invest his entire life savings, $50,000, into Vault of Gems. The man said, "Gavin made it sound like a sure thing. He said he was investing his own money too. So I thought, if he's doing it, it must be legit." Another victim, a woman from Texas, recalled how Gavin's content gave her hope. She explained that she was struggling financially when she came across his TikTok videos. "He told us this was our chance to change our lives. I trusted him. I believed him. Now, I have nothing left." So here's the question. Was Gavin Mayo a visionary entrepreneur who got in over his head, or was he always planning to deceive his followers? Allegedly, many of his investors claim the latter. Reports suggest that Gavin used the funds he raised not for the promised development of his NFT platforms, but for personal luxuries. From his documented vacations in Hawaii to his new Lamborghini, purchased shortly after Vault of Gems launched, critics argue that Gavin's focus was never on delivering value to investors. Instead, they claim, it was all about maintaining the illusion of success. But why didn't anyone notice the cracks in his story earlier? Part of Gavin's success in allegedly deceiving investors lay in the way he structured his promises. He rarely spoke in specifics, opting instead for vague yet enticing phrases like, "Your investment will grow exponentially. This is your ticket to the top 1%. These statements appealed to emotion rather than logic, making people feel as though they were part of an exclusive club. And when combined with Gavin's extravagant lifestyle, it was easy to believe that he had unlocked a secret to wealth. Yet, there was one glaring issue: the lack of transparency. According to victims, Gavin rarely provided detailed information about how the platforms worked or how funds were being used. Instead, he allegedly redirected inquiries with charm, saying things like, "Trust the process. I'm making moves you can't even imagine yet." As complaints began to surface online, it became clear that Vault of Gems and Faceless were not delivering on their promises. Many investors reported that their NFTs were practically worthless, with no secondary market to sell them on. Others claimed they couldn't even access the assets they had purchased. One investor from Florida shared a screenshot of an email Gavin allegedly sent, promising a major update to the platform. The email read, "Big things are coming. Stay patient, and you'll thank me later." But that update never came. And here's another controversial question. Did Gavin Mayo ever intend to deliver on these projects, or was this all part of a larger scheme? By the time the truth began to unravel, it was already too late for many of Gavin's alleged victims. Tens of thousands of dollars had been poured into his projects, with little to no returns. And though Gavin continued to flaunt his wealth online, the cracks in his empire were beginning to show. Thousand Oaks, California, where this alleged fraud originated, is now forever tied to Gavin Mayo's story. Let's explore how the fallout from these projects escalated, leading to Gavin's eventual downfall. When you hear the figure $22 million, it's almost hard to comprehend. That's the alleged amount Gavin Mayo accumulated from unsuspecting investors through a web of deceit. Hailing from Thousand Oaks, California, Gavin's operation was far more sophisticated than just flashy social media posts. Today, we'll break down the intricate strategies he allegedly used to lure in victims, the scale of his operations, and the devastating impact on the lives of those who trusted him. Gavin Mayo's genius, allegedly, lay in his ability to manipulate trust. Social media became his weapon of choice. He capitalized on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter to build what appeared to be an authentic persona, a young entrepreneur who had cracked the code to wealth. One of his TikTok videos, which has since been deleted but was screen recorded by a victim, showed Gavin saying, "I started with nothing, just like you. Now, I'm here to share the secrets to financial freedom." These words resonated with many, especially students, young professionals, and families searching for financial stability. But it wasn't just Gavin's charisma, it was the imagery. He posted photos of luxurious vacations, expensive watches, and exotic cars. This lifestyle served as proof of his success and the potential of his projects like Vault of Gems and Faceless. But here's where it gets more disturbing. Allegedly, Gavin didn't just use his own platform. He hired influencers to promote his NFT projects, creating the illusion of widespread trust. One influencer, unaware of the alleged scam, praised Gavin in a now-deleted Instagram story, saying, "This guy is legit. If you're not investing in Vault of Gems, you're missing out." The use of fake personas and testimonials added another layer to his strategy. Some victims claim Gavin hired actors to pose as satisfied investors, posting glowing reviews online. The fallout from these alleged scams is heartbreaking. Take the story of Emily, a single mother from Nevada, who saw Gavin's posts as an opportunity to secure her child's future. She invested $15,000, her life savings, into Vault of Gems. In an emotional post shared on a community forum, she wrote, "I believed in him. He made it sound like a sure thing. Now, I can't even pay my rent." Then there's Jason, a college student from Texas, who took out a loan to invest in Faceless. He shared his story in a YouTube video, fighting back tears. "I thought I was getting ahead in life. Now, I'm buried in debt, and I don't know how I'll recover." These are just two examples of the hundreds of stories that have surfaced online. Families losing their savings, students going into debt, and even retirees investing their pensions, all drawn in by the same promises. Let's talk about the numbers. According to online investigations, Vault of Gems alone allegedly pulled in over $15 million. Faceless added another $7 million to the pot. But where did the money go? Some of it was reportedly spent on maintaining Gavin's image. Luxury cars, designer clothing, and high-profile parties were all part of the facade. Allegedly, bank statements shared by an anonymous whistleblower showed Gavin spending thousands on exotic vacations just weeks after launching Vault of Gems. The rest of the money? Much of it remains unaccounted for. Investigators suspect it was funneled through shell companies, making it nearly impossible to trace. But here's a controversial question. If the alleged scale of Gavin's operations was this massive, why wasn't it stopped sooner? Did regulatory bodies fail to act? Or was Gavin just that good at covering his tracks? One of the most shocking elements of Gavin's alleged scam was his ability to silence dissent. When early investors began to question the legitimacy of his projects, Gavin allegedly dismissed their concerns. Screenshots from a private Discord server show him telling one investor, "You don't get it. This is a long-term play. If you can't handle the weight, that's on you." Other messages suggest he even threatened legal action against those who spoke out, creating an environment of fear and silence. But the cracks in Gavin's empire were becoming harder to hide. Some investors noticed that the NFT platforms he promoted were riddled with technical issues. In some cases, users couldn't even access their accounts. And when Gavin was pressed for answers, he allegedly disappeared from social media, deleting posts and shutting down communication channels. As we piece together the scale of Gavin Mayo's alleged $22 million scam, one thing becomes clear. This was no accident. From social media manipulation to fake testimonials and silencing critics, every move seemed calculated. But here's the big question. How much of the blame lies with Gavin, and how much falls on the systems that allowed this to happen? Could this be a failure of oversight, or is it simply a reflection of the risks in unregulated markets like NFTs? And for those who invested, the scars run deep. For many, this isn't just about money. It's about betrayal. Let's look at how the fallout from Gavin's alleged actions led to a nationwide conversation about influencer accountability and the dangers of financial advice on social media. Every empire eventually meets its reckoning. For Gavin Mayo, the man from Thousand Oaks, California, the weight of his alleged fraud started to crumble when cracks in his system became too deep to ignore. What seemed like an unstoppable juggernaut of deception began unraveling, thanks to the courage of one individual, a whistleblower who risked everything to expose the truth. The first sign that Gavin's empire was faltering came when one of his own trusted insiders began to question the legitimacy of his projects. Jake, once a close associate of Gavin, began to notice discrepancies in the financial flow. Projects that had promised great returns were failing to deliver, and funds that had been promised to early investors seemed to vanish without trace. It wasn't long before Jake decided to take his concerns public. In a bold move, he anonymously reached out to financial journalists, sharing documents, screenshots of bank transfers, communication logs between Gavin and his associates that exposed the intricate web of deceit. Controversial question. How could someone so seemingly successful build such an elaborate scam? And why did no one stop it earlier? Was Gavin's charm and confidence enough to blind those around him? But exposing Gavin didn't come without consequence. Jake quickly became the target of intimidation. Anonymous messages began flooding his phone, threatening legal action, even suggesting physical harm if he didn't back down. For months, he lived in fear, knowing that revealing the truth could cost him everything. One chilling message read, "We know who you are. This is just the beginning. If you keep pushing, you'll regret it." Despite the threats, Jake remained determined. He knew that his evidence was solid, proof that Gavin was operating a scam designed to bleed investors dry. And slowly, more victims began to come forward, sharing their stories. Once the first wave of allegations surfaced, authorities began to take notice. The FBI, alongside local law enforcement in California, launched a formal investigation into Gavin Mayo's activities. They pieced together the financial records, digital footprints, and traced the flow of money, evidence that pointed to widespread fraud. Bank statements showed irregularities in investment accounts, with large sums disappearing into unknown territories. Victims began to come forward, recounting how they had been drawn in by the fake promises of high returns, only to see their hopes collapse in front of them. One investigator, speaking off the record, stated, "This was one of the most coordinated scams we've seen in recent years. It was textbook deception, but sophisticated enough to evade suspicion for a long time." As the investigation unfolded, the emotional impact on victims became clearer. Families who had believed in Gavin's promises were now left without savings. College students were now burdened with debt, wondering how they would recover from the financial ruin. For many, the realization hit hard, that they'd been deceived by someone they trusted. The stories began pouring in, a tapestry of anguish, betrayal, and regret. One family shared how they lost their retirement savings, their life's work disappearing in a blink of an eye. Another student described how their dreams of a better future crumbled under the weight of debt. The story of Gavin Mayo is far from over. The wheels of justice are turning, but the damage has already been done. The victims, the people who believed in his promises, are now left to pick up the pieces, forced to confront the harsh reality of what happens when greed meets deception. But as this saga unfolds, one question lingers in the air. How do we protect ourselves from scams like this? How do we recognize the warning signs before it's too late? What's your take so far? Do you think this could have been avoided? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe to join our growing community of truth seekers. The fallout from Gavin Mayo's alleged $22 million NFT scam didn't just shatter the lives of his victims. It sent shockwaves through the entire digital asset community. From his home in Thousand Oaks, California, Gavin Mayo orchestrated a scheme that exploited one of the most innovative financial tools of the 21st century, NFTs. But as the dust settled, society began to ask hard questions about trust, responsibility, and the future of digital investments. For the NFT world, this was more than just another scam. It was a devastating blow to its credibility. Already a space riddled with skepticism, Gavin Mayo's alleged actions amplified fears that NFTs were nothing more than a digital Wild West, where fraudsters thrived, and the average investor was left to fend for themselves. Major players in the NFT space spoke out, with one prominent blockchain expert tweeting, "Scams like Mayo's set the NFT community back by years. How can we expect mass adoption when people are losing their life savings?" The scam also sparked debates about regulation. Should governments tighten their grip on digital assets to prevent future scams, or would that stifle innovation? Controversial question. Would stricter regulations have stopped Gavin Mayo, or was his alleged scheme simply too sophisticated for anyone to catch in time? The public's outrage was swift and unrelenting. Social media erupted with discussions. Hashtags like #MayoScam and #NFT fraud trended on platforms like Twitter and TikTok. While many users expressed sympathy for the victims, others questioned their decisions. One TikTok user summarized the sentiment of skeptics. How could anyone fall for something so obviously fake? Did they not do any research? But victims clapped back, sharing emotional stories about how Gavin Mayo's charismatic online presence and alleged fake reviews had convinced them to invest. This sparked a broader conversation. Were the victims truly naive, or was Mayo's alleged manipulation just too cunning? Can we blame someone for falling for a scam that's engineered to exploit trust and vulnerability? Another lingering question emerged. Was this scam a product of an unregulated space, or was it a mirror reflecting human greed on both sides? The societal impact of Gavin Mayo's alleged scam will linger far longer than the headlines. Trust in NFTs has been shaken, and many victims are left with the difficult task of rebuilding their lives. But perhaps the biggest question of all remains. Will this case serve as a warning for others, or will it become just another chapter in the endless saga of greed and deception? The courtroom in Los Angeles, California, was packed to capacity as the trial of Gavin Mayo unfolded. Allegedly orchestrating a $22 million NFT scam, the former entrepreneur sat stone-faced, his once confident demeanor replaced with a cold silence. Victims from across the United States took the stand, sharing their emotional testimonies of betrayal and financial devastation. The prosecution didn't hold back. Using damning evidence, including digital records and social media posts, they painted a picture of calculated deceit. One of Gavin's alleged posts, recovered from his now-deleted Instagram, read, "The future belongs to risk-takers. Trust the process." A post that, in hindsight, many victims said led them to believe in his so-called vision. As each piece of evidence was revealed, murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Victims stared at Gavin Mayo, hoping for some sign of remorse. But according to courtroom witnesses, Mayo remained emotionless, detached from the gravity of what he'd allegedly done. The trial concluded with a guilty verdict on multiple counts of fraud. Gavin Mayo faced a potential sentence of up to 20 years in federal prison, with restitution orders aimed at compensating the victims. However, questions lingered. Would the victims ever see their money again? Or was it all lost in a labyrinth of cryptocurrency wallets and offshore accounts? This story is a stark reminder of the thin line between ambition and greed. From Thousand Oaks, California, to the broader digital investment community, Mayo's alleged actions left a trail of destruction that won't soon be forgotten. But the biggest takeaway remains a controversial one. Was this a case of one man exploiting a system, or does it reflect a deeper flaw in the unregulated world of digital assets? Could this have been avoided, or are we destined to see history repeat itself in this fast-evolving digital age? As we reflect on the victims, the alleged manipulator, and the societal impact, one thing is clear. Trust is a fragile currency, and greed is an ever-present force waiting to exploit it. My concluding statement. So, what do you think? Was Gavin Mayo's alleged scam a masterclass in deception, or did the victims fail to protect themselves in a high-risk environment? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you just enjoyed this detailed breakdown and want more true crime exposés, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us uncover even more intriguing cases. Thank you for watching, loved ones.